Insurance can feel like a total maze, right? Well, the good news is, in New York, there's a whole rulebook designed to protect you, the consumer. But how does it all actually work? Let's break down the system that keeps your insurance company in check. And this really is the most important question, isn't it? When you're paying that premium every month, you're buying a promise. So, who's the one making sure the insurance company actually holds up its end of the bargain? Who's the referee in this game, making sure everyone plays fair? Well, let's find out. Okay, so the person in charge is the Superintendent of the Department of Financial Services, or the DFS for short. Think of this person as the state's top financial regulator. They are the ultimate watchdog for the entire insurance industry, appointed by the governor with one main job: to protect you.
Now, the superintendent's job is a real balancing act. I mean, on one hand, they need to help the insurance industry grow and stay healthy, but their number one job, their main mission, is to protect consumers. And they do that by making sure companies are financially solid, by fighting fraud, and by investigating any time a company might be breaking the rules.
And get this power is proactive. The regulator doesn't just sit around waiting for you to file a complaint. Nope, they can launch an investigation into any person or any company whenever they want, just to make sure they're following the law. It's an absolutely crucial tool for keeping the whole system honest.
So what happens if a company just ignores a request for info during one of these investigations? Well, the penalties start piling up, and they pile up fast. We're talking a $500 fine for every single day a response is late. Yeah, that shows you the regulator really means business.
And for the companies that just don't get the message, the repeat offenders, the consequences get way more severe. If a company racks up 5 violations in 5 years, the superintendent can hit them with an additional penalty of up to $50,000. So yeah, you could say cooperation is definitely not optional.
All right, so we've met the referee. Now, let's talk about the rulebook for the players on the field, the insurance companies themselves. Every single insurer doing business in New York has to play by these specific rules.
And rule number 1 is about as fundamental as it gets. You can't just decide to sell insurance in New York. A company absolutely must have a proper license from the state. Trying to operate without one? That's a surefire way to go out of business with some really steep and escalating fines for every time they get caught.
Okay, here's a key term for you: solvency. It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. It just means, does the insurance company have enough money to pay its claims? You know, your policy is a promise from them to you, and solvency is the proof that they can actually keep that promise if you ever need them to. It's why the DFS watches this stuff like a hawk.
Now this is where the rubber really meets the road for you. When you have to file a claim, insurers are strictly forbidden from playing games with you. So, let's say a pipe bursts and your whole basement floods. They can't lie to you about what your policy covers. They can't drag their feet for months investigating it. And they definitely can't try to lowball you with a terrible offer just hoping you'll give up and go away. These rules are all about making sure you get a fair shake.
Okay, so we've talked about the regulator and the big insurance companies. But what about the people you actually talk to? You know, the agents and brokers? Well, in the industry, they're called producers. And believe me, they have their own specific playbook they have to follow too.
You know, an agent can't just wake up one day and decide to start selling policies for a certain company. It doesn't work like that. They have to be formally appointed by that insurer. The company then has to tell the state about it within 15 days, which creates this official link between them. This whole process is about accountability, making sure everyone knows who is authorized to represent who.
Now, this is a really interesting one. There's a rule about something called controlled business. Basically, this is when a producer sells insurance to themselves, their family, or a company they own. The state put this rule in place to make sure people aren't getting an insurance license just so they can get a commission kickback on their own policies.
And here's how that rule plays out in the real world. Over any given year, a producer can't make more than 10% of their total commission from that controlled business we just talked about. As you can see, the vast majority, 90%, has to come from selling insurance to the general public.
All right, let's get into the real nitty-gritty now. We're talking about the specific actions that are completely out of bounds for anyone working in insurance. These are some of the biggest don'ts in the entire rulebook.
The word discrimination can be really tricky when it comes to insurance, so it's super important to know the difference between what's fair and what's totally illegal. So, fair discrimination, that's actually what insurance is built on. For example, charging a higher premium to a driver with a lot of speeding tickets, that's based on risk. But unfair discrimination is when decisions are based on things like your race or where you're from,
and that is absolutely 100% illegal.
And just look at how specific these protections get. An insurer can't charge you a higher premium because of your race, period. They can't refuse to sell you a policy because of your national origin. And this one is so important. They can never use the fact that someone has been a victim of domestic violence to deny them coverage or treat it like a pre-existing condition. Just no way.
Next on the list of no-nos is something called rebating. Think of it as a ban on bribes or kickbacks. An agent can't offer you cash, a gift card, or really anything of value that's not spelled out in the policy, just to get you to sign on the dotted line. The whole point is that the insurance policy should be sold on its own merits, not because of some under-the-table deal.
Now, there is one tiny exception. A producer can give you a little something, like a keychain or a pen with their logo on it, but it has to be worth less than $25. It's a small allowance. But break that rule, that's a hefty $500 penalty. It really shows how serious they are about keeping the focus on the policy, not the freebies.
So, okay, we've gone through all these rules for the regulators, the companies, the agents, but what does all of this actually mean for you? Well, it all boils down to two really important things: transparency and your rights as a consumer.
What this means is you have the right to know exactly what's going on behind the curtain. A producer is required to tell you what their role is in the sale. They have to tell you if they're getting paid by the insurer. They even have to tell you that their paycheck might change depending on which policy you pick. It's all about transparency, so you can spot any potential conflicts of interest.
And this right here, this is your superpower. Seriously, remember this. You have the right to ask the producer how much they're getting paid for selling you that policy. It is your right to ask, and their answer is a really key piece of information you can use to make the best decision for yourself.
At the end of the day, all these regulations are there to create a fair and level playing field. But that system is only as powerful as the consumers who use it. Knowing these rules is a great first step, for sure, but the real power? That comes from asking the right questions. So, here's my question for you. Are you asking them?